That was quick.
Man, before we can get to such a crazy move like Mo Bamba going to the Lakers, let's start it off nice and hot. The Phoenix Suns have
Yeah.
acquired Kevin Durant and T.J. Warren in exchange for Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, who evidently went to the Bucks, and four unprotected first round picks. Those are 2023, 2025, 2027, 2029, and finally a 2028 pick swap. Now, you know, let's just get right to it, Ruben. Who do you think really won the trade?
Oh, Phoenix. No, no doubt.
You think? I
I
think
think so.
2029 will probably be, I think, the final kind of year to see. I think that's the only way the Nets can really come out on top.
I think
If in
this was really good.
2029 they're all gone, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think it was really good draft compensation that they got, and I think that was the value for Kevin Durant is four first round picks and two stud young players, which they got.
Mm.
But the reason I say Phoenix won is because like they're in a win now window and they managed to maximize that by getting the best available talent in the market. And like I just we can have a conversation about like the rest of this roster, but when you get the best player in the trade, most of the time you're gonna win the deal. And they leverage a little bit of their future, but at the same time, they still have Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton guys under contract. They're young players, right? That's still a solid foundation that you can still build around. Um, and yeah, even though they lose those picks, I mean, they still have, if I'm not mistaken, they still have their 24, their 26, right? So
Yeah,
they
those
do
are the
have some
next.
draft.
Those are the only two up until 2029
Yeah,
and
which
2028, but they'll get the less favorable pick.
yeah, exactly. So it's like they have some draft picks left, but they've clearly you can see that Phoenix has also been sort of a destination. At least it
Yeah,
seems. I mean, you take it all the way back. Like Shaq signed with that team, right? Like, or was he traded? He was traded, right? Can't remember if he
no,
was
I think
traded
he
or not
signed
from
there.
Miami.
He got traded to Miami for sure, but I don't
But
remember him leaving Miami through a trade.
and that's the thing. Phoenix is going to be a destination spot, underratedly. But I think we're going too far off there. Simply say I think Phoenix won the trade because I don't know how you look at that team and you don't say, yeah, I think they're betting favorites now because man, I don't know how you just adding Kevin Durant. We talked about this team a lot. We are like, oh, this team's gonna fall. This team's garbage. Like Chris Paul is older than Christ. Like, but you add Kevin Durant, right? And he's even though he's 35 right now, that's a guy that elevates everything you do on the court. And so him and Devin Booker space the floor. Aiton's going to be like the biggest beneficiary, I think. That allows Chris Paul to be less demanding or demanded to produce, and I think that allows him just to sit back and be the point guard that he is. Um, so anyway, I think Phoenix wins because their title window is as good as any at this point because it's been so wide open. Like the Denver Nuggets are like one of the best teams in the West, right? But that whole conference is so open, regardless
Yeah,
of what we
they haven't
say.
really. I don't think they've ever really been able to sort of cement themselves as like a Boston has been able to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%. But I don't know. What do you think? Because I think I personally would say both teams got really good returns.
Mm.
But I mean, I'm just gonna go with the team that gets the best player more often than not. But I don't know if you feel differently.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm definitely in the minority here. I mean, when I made like a little TikTok about it, I gave Brooklyn an A and I gave Phoenix a B. And I think that's just for the fact that when you look at the whole roster itself, and I kind of went back and forth with this dude on TikTok, and it's basically, you know, I think as great as the 1 through 4 will be, everything 5 through like 10 is pretty ass. There's not really anything there except maybe TJ Warren. TJ Warren, I think, is the one kind of saving grace here outside of obviously them getting Kevin Durant. I mean, seeing how he was to start the year, hopefully he's able to like continue to get back into rhythm. And I think him and Campaign heading that second unit along with maybe Jock Landale, it's promising, but I still think that you lose three three of your rotational starters, and then on top of that, four unprotected first, the 2028 swap. Now, I'm not saying it's similar to the Nets in like 2012 or 2013 or whatever it is, because Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett were way older, but I think you can't really crown a full winner until 2029 hits. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah,
that
that's true.
pick conveys into Bryce or whatever it may be. So I think both teams for sure come out ahead, but I just think that with how volatile the Suns could be, especially with CP3 potentially retiring in the next year or
Yeah.
two, DeAndre Ayton. I think as great as it might be, I think he's still a guy that wants his touches, and adding a Kevin Durant is not going to really help with that. So I think there's potential disgruntlement here, but we all know that winning fixes everything. So I think that's a very minor thing, but
Yeah.
I think it all just really hinges on one, if they win, there's really no talking about it, because you know I think the Lakers only get shat on because they're the Lakers. I think, and that is LeBron. If it's another kind of top tier like squad with like major players, if they win that one ring, I don't think anybody's really like chatting crazy. And I think it's the same thing here, where if they win one, it's kind of undeniable in a sense. DB finally gets his first ring. CP3, it's like this similar to when Curry won his Finals MVP. It's kind of that last thing on his resume, which is crazy in itself to really say like he
Yeah.
needs it. But I think it's just
Yeah.
looking at how these next few years are gonna go. Like short term, for sure the Suns like come out ahead, no doubt. But looking at how these next few years are gonna go could be interesting. And I will say, I don't know how you feel about how the Nets look now, but it's giving me a la 2019 vibes, man. I mean, Cam, Mikal, or two Cams, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Spence. I think that team's going to be super solid. Obviously they're not going to make any crazy noise, but they're not going to be like an easy win either. I don't think entirely, especially with Claxton too.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'll take this both ways. I'll kind of branch off and I'll come back to you on what we're talking about with the Nets. I'm also in the minority that I think that the whole depth conversation with regards to the Suns, in my opinion, maybe it's a hot take or not, but I think it's complete bull. I don't think depth is that important when it comes to the playoffs. And we've seen time and time again, like the best teams, regardless, they shrink the rotation to 8 to 9 guys. And typically it's whether guy number 6, 7, 8, or 9 can have one good game in a playoff series.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so I just want to go down like quickly the roster, right? So let's look at the rotation guys. So we already know that Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Torrey Craig, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton. That's likely their starting lineup, or TJ Warren, whatever. TJ Warren, we all know that he's a capable scorer. He's still getting back to the level that he was at because of his health. But
MJ in the bubble, baby.
I still think he's going to be solid. Like, I think he is a valuable pickup, and I think there was a lot of wing depth in Brooklyn already before all the trades. So I'll go to that after, but I think this opens up the opportunity for TJ Warren to have a little bit more freedom. And then you're still talking about a guy like Saban Lee, who seems to have created a lane for himself. Josh Okogie, campaign. They still have Landry Shamet, and then Jock Landale has been a really nice big for them. He's been playing really good spot minutes, and he seems to have been a positive on both ends. And don't forget, they just acquired Darius Baisley. So,
I'm not really raving over Darius Baisley.
right, but
I
that's
think
still a
he's
guy
like,
who's a rotational player in the league.
yeah, but
And
it,
he's got a lot of promise. He's still a 22-year-old
Bismack's still
kid.
on the team, right?
Yeah, and I think,
Like,
again, that's
okay,
a veteran big presence they
completely
have.
off topic, or maybe not really, but if you're Monty, are you putting Darius above a guy like Bismack in your playoff rotation?
I mean, it depends. It depends on the
I guess
matchup.
yeah. That, and we'll see how like these next few weeks or months go. Because I mean,
Yeah.
he couldn't crack like starting minutes when he was in OKC. Now you're gonna throw him in a
Yeah.
contender. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City's a weird one. I think he just found his. I think he was the odd man out in that weird big man rotation.
Yeah,
Big
especially with the
wing
emergence
rotation.
of Jalen Williams too.
Yeah, Jalen Williams. Then you're talking about still with Poku and Giddy, Lou Dort. Um, you know, and when Chet comes back, it's kind of like he's an odd man out at this point.
Mm.
So I think this is a really nice new opportunity for him to kind of create his lane. He's a young player. That's a team that the Suns can be like, okay, well, we gave up a lot of draft compensation. We might as well have a project. And it's not like Darius Baisley is a bad player by any means. He just hasn't been able to be proven, and he's shown some ups and some downs. But, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this team does have 8 or 9 guys that they can throw it out in a playoff game, and most of these guys are, quite frankly, playoff proven. So, I mean, and then when you're top heavy like that, the beautiful part about your rotation is that you can always have a top tier guy on the floor at all times.
Well,
Whether
that
that's
and
eight,
KD's definitely playing like 42 minutes a game when it gets to the
yeah,
playoffs. Yeah.
yeah, and so is Devin Booker, and so is Devin Booker. So, I mean, just think about the luxury that you can be like, okay, well, we're gonna have CP and Book out at the same time, or we're gonna have KD and Book at the same time, or CP and Aiton, or Aiton and Book, or whatever. And you can always have your best players, your top tier guys on the floor with your other rotational players. It's all about fit. So it's an interesting time for Monty to see how well he's going to be able to, kind of sync these guys with like just under 2 months left to go in the season. For the Brooklyn side, you know what this reminds me of? Like you said, 2019 Brooklyn Nets. You know what this reminds me of? 2011, 2011 Denver Nuggets when they traded Carmelo Anthony to the New York Knicks. Then they got that package full of players, and then Denver went on
Was
to
that the year
become
Iggy was on the Nuggets?
yeah,
Oh, bro, that was a squad. Yeah, yeah.
bro. That was
That
Danilo
was that
Gallinari,
was a dirty team. Oh my goodness.
bro. That's what I'm
I
saying.
like
Look at
that.
the talent. Cam Thomas, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, still Ben Simmons. I mean, like you get whatever the alerts out on this dude, like Amber Alert. You can't find him, but Claxton. Who else am I forgetting that they just acquired? Cam Johnson and then Mikal Bridges. Obviously, the guys they just got in this deal for Kevin Durant, right? That's a deep team. And then I think where they're gonna go into the offseason, they have so much draft compensation. Like they have so many draft assets, and then they have one, two, three guys that teams will be looking at in the offseason. Dorian Finney-Smith, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. I think Mikal Bridges is going to stay at Brooklyn Net. I think they really
Mm.
believe in his future, but a guy like DFS is going to be like highly touted throughout the offseason as a player that can help a contending team. Whether or not they decide to keep him. The same thing with a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, right? And I think they have a lot of assets to work with. And I think that's a place where, so funny we use this quote. Kyrie Irving said, like, before he joined the Nets, where it's like, oh, I already like what they're building up there, right? And then when they joined, they had to tear the whole thing apart. If I was a star player and I was looking for a new role, if I was, let's say, an OG Anunoby, and said, hey, I have the opportunity to sign somewhere, I'm going to be like, I think I can go and carve my own role out there because this is a team that doesn't have a significant scorer. DFS, Mikal, and Cam Johnson, all three probably aren't going to stick around with Brooklyn this offseason or whatever it is. I'm just saying, if I was a star player looking for, the opportunity to lead or, and rarely have we seen this occasion, but I'm just saying, just using it as an example, Brooklyn's a team that's set up for contention. And if
Yeah,
they had the
they
start,
just need like that one kind of home run hitter, and they're good.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like if they didn't make this trade for Kevin Durant and they didn't get Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, the team still probably would have been a really good playoff team in the Eastern Conference because you're talking about Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, the emergence of Cam Thomas,
Mm.
or yeah,
Claxton's playing at a DPOY level,
and-
no doubt.
yeah. So I mean, that's to say, like this team is clearly well built. That's why I was comparing them to that Nuggets team, because even though they don't have an all-star right now, like the Nuggets had with Iggy, I mean, it's not to say that there's a player there that can't transform into that, and that could be Mikal Bridges. And there's a lot in their games that are very similar. Iggy's more of a playmaker than Mikal was, but there are a lot of two-way elements that really mirror each other. So, yeah, the Nets are an interesting team. I think they're going to stay in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, that and Jock Vaughn, I think, is still. Jock Vaughn is for sure going to get some Coach of the Year like nods. I don't think he'll actually win it, but seeing how he was able to turn that ship, and then seeing what he's going to be able to do with this team, that's probably one of, like, I think, a sleeper storyline heading into this year, no doubt.